Okay. So somewhere along the way, even with the most purpose-driven leader, even the most purpose-driven leader lose sight of the why they started. And I know that we can get a little caught up in everyday life. And it's not because we stop caring, but because clarity can get better under expectation, noise, and the pressure to perform. So in this episode is about finding our way back to the first spark, the original vision, and the part of yourself that still remembers why it all began. I'm your host, Laziena, and with me is my co-host, Nashid. I am your repair language queen, which I now coined, and my good old partner, Nashid, is the businessman around the world. I like to think of him as. So, Nashid, please introduce yourself. And today we have with us Cari, and we'll give her a chance to tell us exactly what she does and how she helps everyone find the hero within themselves.
Yeah, thank you, Laziena, for the good introductions. So today's topic is more about the why, right? And why we started this podcast. Yeah, we were discussing before the show, like why we started this podcast and why this is Optimus Prime. We thought of a leaders, and we want to have that leaders to be shown to our programs, and we want to highlight your stories and how you started. And the why is very important, right? So why you started, why we started, and why we started is like we were discussing about the podcast and everything, and the common goal is to highlight the individual people like you, Cari, and around the world, right? So we met with so many people, but there are a lot of stories not to be told, and now and today we want to hear more about you, Cari, and yeah, you can start, and the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Nashid. Thank you, Laziena. Thank you guys for having me on the show. Like, I'm truly honored to be here and to share a little bit of my story. To answer what you guys were saying, I grew up in a toxic household, and it was obviously before I can even remember. And the toxicity and the tumultuousness and the abuse, and it all started before I could remember. So that was normal to me. And if we jump forward 4.5 decades, I was in my mid 40s before I realized that who I was being was not the authentic me. And who I thought I was truly just, it was a mask, but it was identities that I had taken on. Either other people had given me as I was growing up, or I had made up for myself. So the idea is that I'm not smart, that I'm not, I'm not good at sports, that I'm not pretty, that I'm whatever it was that was not serving. That was my entire identity. And I had no idea who I truly was. And so my story in the last 3 years is just about coming back. And as you said, Lizzie, and finding that spark and finding who I am.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I really resonate with that as well. I always tell the story, and so it might be a little bit repetitive, but there was me sitting at the bench in my grandparents' house yard and just looking up at the airplanes going by and thinking about what are they doing, where are they going, and I didn't want to be subjected to whatever life was given at that moment. And when I was in my teens, I came to America. I had the idea of becoming a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and that dream I felt was squashed. Not intent. I don't want to like excuse anybody's behavior, but I don't want to blame either. It just in at 17, at 18, I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and that's when my dreams I felt I gave up on myself. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I realized that I had spark and I have something different, and just being able to embody that and live it. It's been an absolute joy. It can be stressful, and like our podcast today, the vision versus the mission maker. Like we tend to forget. So there are times when I forget why I started, and I always go back to that little girl who sat on that bench and didn't realize the spark was there, and that refuels me every time. So I really resonate with that mid-40s type of like, oh, they were right about midlife crisis and the
Yeah.
transition period. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
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 Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely right. So, yeah, and coming back to my stories of yeah, because going forward, like most of the time, I lost and asked my question, like, why did I start it, right? Why I'm doing it. And every time I shared with the stories, like every time I feel lost, right? So my best motivation is like to book a dinner and eat alone in a restaurant where everyone is looking at me, and I was like reprocessing all my thoughts and take a napkins and write it down, like why I started it, why I'm getting lost.
Mhm.
And the journey is going alone, right? So I'm on the tech entrepreneurship journey, right? And apart from that, like I also have like a certified life coach. So yeah, that's another story why I started it. But that's not gonna be my podcast right now. So it's gonna be Cari's podcast. So we will hear more about you, why you started it, and why eventually, like in your stories, did you ever face like you lost everything and I'm sure like you have many days going to the restaurants and eat alone, like me. So this is one of the examples. So share us why you lost the whole why in your life many times, maybe, because we have similar stories to share, and how you overcome. Like, what was your motivations? Like, did anyone give you the motivation, or sometimes self motivation is very important. So last episode we were discussing like we're building the community, and we may get lost, and asking the community is very important. Like subject matters, like if anyone have any relationship repair languages, so we have the copyright Laziena for the uh, relationship copyrights and everything, right? So she's the boss, right? So you can head up and ask like, hey, I'm asking the question, and she will say like, all right, go and read my book, page 22, and you have all the answers, right? Yeah, she's the boss. So coming back to you, Cari, right? So what was your why, and why you lost it, and how did you overcome? So we have so many audience over there, and they are asking for these particular type of questions, like why you lost the why.
I thank you for that. And I want to just refer back to Laziena, your question. So much of my childhood and teenage years, we lived 20 minutes away from an international airport to the north, 40 minutes from an international airport to the south of us. So we had planes over our house all the time. And I would sit in our backyard and I would see all of these planes going over and be like, I don't care where that plane's going. I want to be there. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I just want to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because of how tumultuous and abusive, there were so many different kinds of physical and emotional and sexual and spiritual abuse in my house growing up. And I don't want to say I lost my why. I never had a why to begin with
Right.
because I was taught in my house that I was not allowed to be who I was. We were not allowed to ask questions. We were not allowed to speak unless spoken to. We had to pretend to be this perfect family out around other people, and then we'd come home to this horrific home and deal with the things there, and we had to keep it quiet, and we couldn't tell anybody. And I just, from as far back as I can remember, I was masking and I was putting on a role and I was playing a role. And I remember when I left the house at 20 and went off to college, I had no idea who I was. I didn't know what my interests were. We only had certain interests that we were allowed to be interested in. And I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to have a relationship or a conversation with people. And it just was, I was lost. And I incredibly somehow made it to my 40s being this lost.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this, where the spark started was I had a very, very good friend and we met when he was 20 and I was 21, somewhere right around there. And he was going through this transition in his life, but wasn't exactly sure how to go through it. And he came to me and said, will you help me? I said, yeah, absolutely. And over about a year, this man changed his life so incredibly, came from doing all of these things that just would be looked down on by society and just became this upstanding citizen, met the woman of his dreams, got married, moved away. And we kind of randomly kept in touch. This was before Facebook and everything. And when Facebook came years later, we got back in touch again. But we didn't see each other for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
And he happened to be in town one day. He texted me and said, "We're coming into town in 2 days. Are you available?" And I was, "Absolutely, I'm there. Wherever you guys are, I will be there." And spent the evening having dinner and then back at the Airbnb where he and his wife and family were staying. And we just started reminiscing and talking. And he was telling me about his family and all these different jobs and all this stuff. And the way he was speaking was so different than what I was expecting, because I was expecting him from 20 years ago, because I was still who I was from 20 years ago.
Right.
And I realized I was so stuck and I
Yeah.
hadn't progressed. I hadn't moved. I hadn't been married. I didn't have kids. I didn't, and I'm in my early 40s and I'm like, I'm still the same person I was.
Hmm.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, there's some changes that I haven't been making. And so I went out and I sought therapy, and I'm like, I knew there was stuff that I didn't want to deal with for years. And at that point, I'm like, I need to face whatever I'm holding inside of me. And I saw three different therapists, and all three of them were just like, "No, you just need to reach out or reparent yourself. You'll be good in 12 weeks." And I'm like, this is 30 years of trauma that I'm dealing with. What we didn't
Yeah.
know at the time was there was actually another 10 years. The first 10 years of my life was sexual abuse by a family member that I had forced myself to forget at age 10. And so there was actually over 40 years of trauma that was really controlling me and keeping me stuck. And I'm like, I've got to face this. And these therapists, doing the best that they could, said, we're just seeing what's on the outside. In 12 weeks, you should be good to go. And all three times I walked out of there and I was like, nothing's changed. This
Hmm.
didn't help. And so at that point, I took on the identity of being too broken to ever be
Yeah.
helped.
Hmm.
And I was so broke that I'm like, life just isn't worth it for me anymore, because I couldn't move forward. There was all of this trauma that I couldn't process. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to tap into it. And I just thought, I need to end my life. I couldn't function anymore.
Hmm.
And it was 24 hours before I had planned that. Nobody knew. I had written letters. I had them addressed and stamped and on the counter, hoping whoever found me would put them in the mail, because I didn't want anybody to get a letter and possibly be able to stop me. And I got a phone call from this same friend,
Wow.
and he said, "I don't know why, but I need you to talk to this friend of mine." And he's a coach. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, I can't, I'm broken. I can't be fixed. These professionals have already tried. I can't, and I can't invest in that again, only to be told, "We can't do anything for you."
Hmm.
And he wouldn't let me off the phone until I promised to talk to his friend 4 times. He's like, just 4 times. And I finally said, okay. And that kept me alive for another couple of days. And I talked to his friend and I got on this call and all of my trauma started to come up, but I wouldn't verbalize any of it. And so I literally turned into this 12-year-old kid, and I folded my arms and I'm like, "I'm not telling you anything about me. I don't care. I'm only here because our mutual friend wants me to do it. I'm talking to you 4 times and then I'm done." Like, and he was like, "Okay." And then he said, "Let's get started." And I said, "What do you mean, let's get started? I'm not telling you anything about me." He said, "I heard you. Let's get started." And he didn't go down the traditional talk therapy route. He was
Right.
a coach who practiced in neurolinguistic programming. And I thought, all right, he's going to talk to me for an hour and we'll do this 4 times and we'll be done. And 3 hours later, I was curled up in a ball in the fetal position on the couch, sobbing, saying, "We have to stop. I can't do this."
Hmm.
And he was able to find a way, a technique that worked for my brain, that was able to start to go back to when I was this traumatized child, Because when all these therapists would say, well, just reparent yourself, be the parent you didn't have that you needed. I was like, I don't know how to do that because when I go back, I'm still that traumatized child.
Right,
I don't
exactly.
know how to separate myself
Mm,
from that and be that parent. And he was able with different techniques to teach me how to do that. And that was it was that first session because it was on a Friday evening and Saturday and Sunday, because he's like, I want to talk to you again as soon as possible. We're going to meet Monday night. And I was okay. And so Saturday and Sunday, as I was just going about the weekend, doing whatever, my brain kept pulling my attention to my heart. And it felt like there was this little space above my heart that was a little bit lighter, like I had let go of something. It was tiny, but my brain kept coming up like this, it feels different than anything. And so I went back, we met again on Monday. We did the same thing on the same incident for 4 hours. And again, still hadn't told him anything. He's like, you think of it. I'm going to take you through the process. You don't have to tell me anything. And after 4 hours, I was like, gotta stop. Emotionally, I can't do this. And over the next week, that space opened up a little bit. And I was like, maybe this guy knows what he's talking about. Because I thought he was a lunatic.
mm,
And, I'm like, what do you mean you're going to help me if I don't tell you anything about what you're
yeah.
going to help me with? And I was like, maybe he does know. I met with him 2 more times. And then I said, I need to coach with you. And it was roughly a 2 year process.
Mhm.
And it was hard. It wasn't easy. It was very, very difficult. But that grew me. That space grew bigger and bigger. I had trauma that I was like, I didn't even remember this, that I was able to bring up and process and release and start moving forward and becoming somebody different without trying to be different, trying to force myself to be different. I just, as I got rid of, somebody said it as an analogy one time of you, every time something happens, you stack clay on you. You
Mhm.
pack clay on top of you until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. And so as I started to process, the clay just started falling off and I could start to see who I was. And I'm like, then I can do something with that. What do I want to do? Not what am I stuck in? I can only do what do I want to create?
Yeah.
And so I've been creating amazing things ever since, things that I never thought I'd ever be able to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Um,
thank you.
I feel like there's so much that you share there, and it's so important as as a woman myself, obviously. Um, I think that there's a lot of I'm trying to there's so many things that you said that I want to touch on. But what I see in you that I see in me is the determination to just learn more, but not just learn more, learn from power. Because you're absolutely right. There are different therapists and there's this kind of stigma. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I tried all of the therapy and you were there, I was there. Okay, what more can you tell me about myself that I didn't know? This is not working, that's not working." But really and truly, all therapists are not the right fit. Doesn't mean that they're bad therapists, but sometimes the block is that we don't want to talk about it anymore. We want to actually do something about it. And there's not a lot of a language in that supports, okay, this is like you said, you kept going back to your childhood. You couldn't just go and reparent that when that wound was still open. The wound needed to be healed. For the wound to be healed, it needed to be named, it needed to be witnessed, it needed to be processed. And throughout your and our entire life, those are all seasons. And I think being in my 40s now, the season is looking back and saying, okay, there's a lot of pressure on a woman to, if you've been sexually abused, you're not going to talk about it, but you're going to be 100% for everybody all the time. And then stepping into the world of creation and your own power is also shedding a lot of those old beliefs. And that can get caught up. There are days if I'm talking to someone and they're giving me more advice than I would, and I'm not feeling heard, the old triggers will start coming up, and I need to remember to center myself because if I don't, I'm going to listen to those words again and I'm gonna go back to that space where I wasn't feeling good enough, or I need to be subservient, or I need to listen to somebody else's opinion and mine doesn't isn't important, and then I lose that the spark and my why, and having to go back again now to say, okay, my why is bigger than that, or also that person's opinion or their thoughts are just to help me get better so I don't have to see it through that lens. But every moment there's a thing that happens where it's a little trigger, the little words come in again, and it's like, okay, I acknowledge this, but I'm going to continue. I acknowledge that, and that may apply, so let me look at it too. And even if I
Yeah.
have to look at it, it still comes with reliving some kind of trauma. And now, this goal here for this podcast is to reach people all over the world. And one of the things that I understand by experience is that women and men too, I think this is a side note, men have had a lot of experiences in abuse and sexual abuse and what they need to be a man without being shown what a man is, and then they have to reach this high society's norm where their emotions are just being brushed off and on the side. And Nashid, I'm gonna have you speak on that, right? But that also is where we lose our why, and it even if we lose our why, it's another opportunity to go in and look and redefine it, and get the power or the lesson and the gratitude from it, so that we can continue to push forward and embody the leadership that we want and the life that we want to create. But your story touched my heart because there's a lot about your childhood that I relate to, and a lot of your childhood I also participated in with my children, and learning about how you share your story. I can reflect on that and say, as a parent, there are times when I didn't do it right. My intentions were the best, but I didn't do it right. But it doesn't mean that I can't do it better now.
Right.
And also forgive that part of me that did. And then also there's the me who didn't know better and really was just trying, and I don't have to sit in shame and sit in the cluster of it and keep minimizing myself. I can do something differently with it.
Absolutely.
I'll pass it on to
Exactly.
Nashid now because I'm a little better.
Oh,
No,
I
no,
love
no.
that,
Yeah,
Laziena. Thank you for
no,
sharing
no,
that.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like, I was just listening and connecting with the stories of mine and how things move on, and how these need extra punch to move ahead. Like you have the coaching programs and everything. So I just want to know more about the how, like you told about like the person who helped you for this program and everything. Like then what happens, right? Like how did that? Yeah, because a lot of the times you already face, and you were like 8 years old guy, like who don't want to share. So
Mhm.
how you think this guy helped you to regain your why, and you came out from that stories which you don't want to share, and now from point A to point B, like how you reach for that extra push from someone, right? So what I do believe there, yeah, I think there is in the religions, like everything happens for a reason, right? Right. I strongly believe that, and probably that person was there from the beginning, but definitely he was there, but you haven't found him, or maybe it was not the connection of the connecting the dots, right? So
Right.
so I was really, when I listened to your stories, right, I was asking, like, I will ask the next question, like, someone pushed you, right? And then what happened? There are many people like this extra push, or this extra coaching sometimes didn't help. They say like, all right, it's the same old story, same old then. But after a couple of, I'm not saying the failures, I'm sharing, like, after a couple of meetups with different person you already did, and you lost focus, right? Like this won't happen to me, right? But suddenly it spark, right? Like the spark what we have in Optimus Prime Transformers, right? So what spark? That spark is shifting you from point A to point B. Share us those stories, share us those journeys. I am sure that Our audience is really love to hear that.
Thank you. There's, as you were asking, like, what would these spark? There were a couple of different things that came to mind that were truly like the foundation for transformation for me. The first one didn't come until maybe 6 or 7 weeks after I had started talking to this coach. And it was the realization that this friend that I had had for over 20 years at this point, um, that he had no idea what I was going through. And yet he felt a nudge, an intuitive nudge that, and he told, I mean, we talked about it months later, and I told him, you have no idea how you saved my life that night because this is what was planned. You would have gotten one of those letters like a couple weeks later. And he said, I just had this feeling that I had to set you up with this guy to speak with him, and I had to do it right then, right then. And he goes, just something kept telling me I could not wait. And so part of it was he cared enough about me to follow that. He didn't know why he was doing it. He would not let me off the phone. And I'm like, I'm not going to talk to this guy. And he's like, please, please, because he followed his intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, there's somebody who cares about me because I grew up with family that I didn't feel cared about me, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
very distant from my family right now still. I will never have the atypical family relationship with my siblings and parents. And it was like, oh my gosh, here's somebody who's acting like family, what I think family should be like. Then it was working with this coach, and I literally didn't even start telling him anything about me until I think session 5 or session 6. So we worked for over a month without him knowing a single thing. And yet every time we worked together, not just when we spoke, every time we did work, this space got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And I was changing. And I'm like, there's something happening, and what is happening is good and it is right. Because I didn't know that everything I was carrying was so heavy and so dark inside of me. It was
Mm-hmm.
just normal. Until that space opened up and was light and was white, I was like, oh, oh,
Yeah.
there's two things going on right here. And I'm like, I want this. I want to feel that feeling. I don't want to feel this heaviness that suddenly I became conscious of. And so as that started opening up, I was like, this is it. I'm going to keep going, whatever it takes, because I want to feel that lightness.
Yeah.
Then if we go forward, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 months, this coach and I, we had very similar personalities and we started, we became friends. It's we just got along really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were coaching together and we were talking every week, but we would laugh and joke together. And we're just like, oh, interesting, we get along. The man was on a road trip to do a bike thing in southern Utah and randomly stops at his third great grandfather's grave on this trip back because he was going through the town. He had never been there before. He makes a live video about it. I watch it and I'm like, that is my fourth great grandfather's headstone. And so it turns out we're fourth cousins.
Oh
And
my
I'm,
God.
yeah, it was so random, so random. And I'm like, we're related. And I was like, oh, I have family. I have a cousin that I didn't know. And this man, this is, it was, I'm going to get emotional talking about it because it
Please
was
do.
the most random thing. This man
Yeah.
was 48 years old, 47, 48, had driven through that town hundreds of times, had never stopped. And it was a very unique headstone. And so I do a lot of genealogy. And so I'm like, I knew right away. I knew right away. And I'm like, there's something that this was just like another testament of you are on the right path and this is where you need to keep going. And then as the layers started peeling off, as that clay started falling off, and I could start to see, like you said, the way that I was starting to catch myself, where before I
Yeah.
didn't even know that was an option. When I would catch myself and choose something else, grace for myself, forgiving grace for anything I did or thought or said or had happened to me was so powerful for me and still is to forgive myself for the human being that I am because I am perfectly imperfect. And that was such a shift Because when I couldn't forgive myself for anything, I carried every single bit of that inside of me. I started developing fibromyalgia. I was diagnosed when I was 24. I started having random seizures when I was 20. They could never figure out why.
Mm.
28, I was diagnosed with PCOS. In my 30s, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue. In the 2.5 years that Dave and I worked together, those have almost complete the epilepsy is completely gone. The chronic fatigue, the PCOS, and the fibromyalgia almost completely gone. Like it healed me because it
Mhm.
was, and as I could see myself getting better, as I started releasing things and my body started functioning differently because I wasn't holding all of that negative energy anymore, it just gave me more and more encouragement. And the
Yeah.
difficult thing about it is that it's not easy and you want to stop. But when you have those little moments where you shift, when you have those little
Mhm.
moments where you're like, I'm allowed to forgive myself for, just beating myself
Mm.
up just now, and you actually do it and you step into the difficult thing, whether it be terrifying or whether you're exhausted or whether you have anxiety, then it
Yeah.
proves to yourself you can do hard things and it keeps you going if you let it. But
Yeah.
it's work. It's work. It's not going to come automatically, but it is work. But it's a beautiful work. And anybody who's been through hard things, anybody who's been through trauma, anybody who's been through difficulties, there is another side. I used to hate when I would watch a show or listen to something and people would be like, if I can do it, you can do it. Because I'm like, mm-mm, you came from a wealthy family or you had friends that supported you, whatever.
Mm.
I was nobody. I was nothing. I was on the edge of not being on this earth anymore. And if I can come back from this, trust me, anybody can. And
Yeah.
that's why I have started coaching to help people to come back because now I understand. One of the first things Dave did when we started talking, he said, this is some of the trauma that I've been through,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it took weeks, but it gave me permission to open up and say, these are my imperfections. This is
Right.
some of the real me. And it was baby steps because I knew he proved in those first 4 weeks that he was not going to judge me no matter what I
Mm-hmm.
told him.
Yeah.
He was going to accept me no matter what. And I didn't know at that point unconditional love was a real thing. I had no idea that people actually loved other people without conditions, no matter who they were or what they were. And that I found a tribe. I found a couple of people who believed in me. And through that, I found this ginormous tribe. I'm in a Facebook group right now of 11,000 people. And, the main core, a couple of hundreds of them they're all like that. They all have unconditional love. They all have grace. They all forgive themselves and each other, and they love no matter what. And
Right.
it just allows, giving myself permission to change and grow
Mm-hmm.
gives permission to anybody around me if they'll take that.
Yeah.
So,
That is so beautiful, Carrie. You have such a powerful story that is not only inspirational, it's I have a lack of I right now have the lack of words for it because you're speaking truth and you're honoring your journey and you. And I'm very thankful that you had the people in your life that you did that showed up for you when they did. Um, I have a couple of notes that I took because I was like, I have to get, like, I want to reflect back to you, you know. First of all, let's meet Dave. Please, I would like to bring Dave on for an episode if he's okay with it. He sounds like an amazing person. But when Nashid was asking like, who gave you the push and all of that, and you were saying that you didn't have family, and then it turned out that you did. How beautiful, because you would not like you talked about the other side of the journey, and I also have been on there. I remember on the other side of when I was on the other side of the journey, someone said, "Oh,
mhm,
you have to forgive this person." I was like, "Forgive them? I don't want," and I didn't realize at the time how much that meant. I was holding on to that. I was carrying that heavy weight. When I did forgive, and then I realized, oh, that's what they meant. But on that side of it, it's like, no, I don't have family. I don't have anybody. And once you learn, once your heart started to soften, it really showed what was already there, just came to you, right? That's so beautiful. And there's a book, I'm sure you know it, called The Body Keeps a Score.
Mhm.
Mm,
Incredible how much we don't realize how our nervous system keeps us back, you know? And it's
mm,
not even our fault. We have to go through it. So there's a study. There's a doctor, I believe it was in London in the 1930s. His John Bowlby, I think. I'm gonna have to fact check, but I do remember his last name is Bowlby. And he did a lot of studies about from 0 to 3 how we form our attachment. When I think about that, by age 7, we already have our limiting beliefs. And then by our teenage years, that's when our protections come up. And that's when we decide we're either going to do more of this or we're not going to do any of that. We become very defiant in who we are going to, and the personality that we are going to adapt. But after learning more about the nervous system, and I look at my daughters about my children, and myself, but one of the example I always use is my daughter. There was a situation that happened when she was like 3 months old, and I noticed as an adult, her when she has a trigger, it's fear. Fear is triggered for her. Whenever something happened and she gets disoriented, is fear. And that's because her body learned fear at 3 months old. So, and her nervous system was completely dysregulated. And I recall I was going through something and my legs wouldn't stop shaking, and I was like, why am I like having this shaking? And this is part of our theme in our podcast, right? What when we lost our spark, how did we get it back, right? How what when we lost sight of why we started, that's something I had to look at, and that's where I learned that my body was holding on to stored trauma and how it's impacting not only my life but how I live my life. And I decided that I wanted to be a cycle breaker, but I'm not breaking any cycles if my nervous system wasn't even, and I don't like to use the word broken, but at the time it needed nurturing, right? And that
mm,
can derail the process too, and it can feel like I'm not doing what I'm not pushing through my goals. I'm not meeting the goals that I set for myself. But it's also important to take that time to learn to regulate those emotions, so that that is the spark that was missing for me at times. And that was what ignited me to go back into fully embodying and, continue on um with the mission. It's like that's what drift us off the mission and then going back on. So your story is so powerful, and I see a
mm,
lot of myself in it, and I see a lot of other people in it too, because how many people across the world are either growing up in poverty. Even if they're growing up in poverty, there's still abuse that happen because oftentimes religion belief says spare the rod, spoil the child, and we're whooping our kids and we're not meeting their emotional needs, or they don't have a safe space. Mom's always angry, or mom's in survival mode, or dad's not home, and we didn't get the nurture that we needed, and we've just all kind of go into survival mode. So when we switch from that survival mode into aligning with our purpose and understanding that we have a greater mission, um a greater part to participate in life, it makes it all the difference. And unfortunately, it's hard. It is not easy, but it's so worth it, because then we get to meet people. Like, I am sitting in Florida right now. Nashid is in Bangladesh, almost midnight or 1 a.m. And Cari, I forget where you're residing. So, we all get to come together and ignite, spark in each other and form our own transformer group. You know, I
Absolutely.
really appreciate your story. I so appreciate
yeah.
it. And you're right. I say the same thing. If I can do it,
Why can't you?
and
Right. Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the best part, I was thinking, like you said that you lost the confidence with the family, you lost confidence with the friends, and you know what? All on a sudden, a friend helped you, keep pushing you, and you are like ignoring. So everything happens for a reason. So he kept
Mm-hmm.
pushing you, and this is the friend you need. This is the friend we need in our life. Oftentimes we don't understand, and we are like I asked my daughters, how many best friends you have? Like five? I said, like five best friends? Wow. So then I told her, like, eventually when you grow up, you have very less friends and very less best friends. And she said, like, what? No, no way. I said, yeah, that's the way. That's the way, because the best people are not going to be there. Uh, the best of the best people will be there and who will support you in the long run, right? So you lost confidence um, with your friends, and eventually a friend pushed you, and you lost confidence 200% with the families, and you found that Dave is a kind of relative to you, and keep
Yeah.
pushing it. That's the spark, right? That's the spark.
Yeah.
Everything is happen, and for the reasons, right? And now you and Dave are working, right, together with the coaching business.
We don't coach together, but we are both coaches. And
See,
during the time that I was coaching with him, I actually became his coach at the same time. So we would co-coach each other. So
bravo.
yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the best part. That's the best part of this amazing podcast, what we are showcasing it. Like, yeah, things are happening, right? See, you put
Yeah.
yourself in a coach and you have a stories, right? So everyone, we have a stories, and there are people that we don't want to share the stories. Like, I always give the example of like there's a cartoon character called Barney, like
Mhm.
sharing means caring, right? So if you want to share, it's gonna be good for you. And then definitely, yeah. Uh, yeah, that's your spark. That's how you
Mhm.
regain, that's how you rediscover yourself from that portion of time. So I was also thinking to know about your mission, right? And about your mission in next couple of years, how you want to grow, how you want to evolve, and how your purpose is trying to help to the different people like who were suffering, right? You had couple of pushes to get out the secret stories of you, right? So there are people all around the world, right? Um so what's your mission, what's your purpose, and how you want to help, right? So how you want to pass your stories from the coaching, of course, but definitely you have something in your mind, and please share it, right?
I have a lot of things in my mind. I love
See,
this
I
question,
told
and
you.
I'm
I
gonna
told you.
thank you for that. And I'm gonna break it down a little bit. My purpose is it's two part. It's to be a beacon of hope that anybody can get over whatever they've been through. And trauma is trauma. Like some of us go through what some people will call big T trauma, and then there's little T trauma. Somebody could have had a teacher that was rude to them in second grade, and that was really traumatic for them. So there is no trauma that is worse than other trauma. We all go through things that are traumatic.
Hmm.
So all trauma. So for anybody, any trauma that they've suffered, I want to be a beacon of hope that you can get on the other side of that because you can, no matter what. Secondly, my purpose is to help, and it's to help and it's to love unconditionally. And I want to point out something really quick that took us a few months to really realize is that Eric saved my life. However, 20 years or more than 20 years before that, I had helped save his life. And he had unconditional love for me, which I thought was an obligation. I couldn't see it as unconditional love because I didn't know that was a real thing. I thought people either felt obligated or they felt sorry for me, but I didn't realize it was love. And the best thing about that is that I had helped Eric when we were in our early 20s. 12 years later, he had met Dave and had helped change Dave's life. 12 years after that, Eric reached out to me and said, I want to connect you with Dave. And Eric and Dave changed my life. And that circle has continued in the way that the three of us have affected each other. And so the basis of that was unconditional love between all of us. The way that I loved Eric, the way that Eric loved Dave, the way that Dave loved me, that Eric loved me. Unconditional love and grace is just, in my world, it's key. And I want other people to be recipients of that. I want other people to feel that. Like me, who I didn't know I had felt it I didn't know other people had accepted me unconditionally. And I want other people who feel like they're unlovable or that they have done things or been through things that are so horrific that nobody could love them. Oh my gosh. I love you. Like I love you. There's a guy named Steve Hardison that is this tremendous coach that a lot of people won't know the name. And he says if we can hate somebody for no reason, we can love somebody for no reason. So I don't even need to know you. Man, I have so much love for everybody I come across. And there's times where that's not perfect. And there's times where I have judgments about others or myself. And I have to go back and do the work and have grace for me or them or
Yeah.
and step back into it like you were talking about, Laziena. I want people to be on the other side. I want people to get there and I want to be able to show you the way. This life is a mountain without a top. We're constantly working, we're constantly climbing. Our nervous system is there to protect us. And until we teach it in the neural pathways in our brain that I don't need to be protected from this anymore, it's
Right.
going to keep doing it. Once we change that, it's like we're climbing the mountain, we've reached up, and there's people in front of us that are reaching down saying, hey, I can help you. And then we get to a point where we get to reach down and help others up too.
Hmm.
And I want people to not be clawing at the bottom of that mountain. I want to be like, hey, let me show you the path. And maybe I'm not the person to coach you. Maybe I need to refer you to somebody else. Maybe we just need to have a conversation and that helps. Maybe you just need to read some content that's online and I can direct you to that. I do a podcast. I speak on stage. I was in a book. And when you ask about what's going on in the future, I've been asked to be in two more books. I have a goal. I made a declaration at the end of February. I was going to speak 50 times by the end of this year. I have 49 of those set up already. Just looking, excuse me, just looking for that last one. And yeah, I want to continue. I want to get on stage more. There's a brand new podcast that I've kind of stepped into. It was already formed and I've taken over the hosting role. I want to create that differently than it has been in the past and just help. I just want people to be helped, to know that there's hope, to have the courage to step into it, know that they will be loved unconditionally. I can bring them into a tribe. There's different groups of interest and coaching and all these things that I know. And yeah, they're not alone. I know what it feels like to be alone. I didn't have friends. I didn't have a family. I've never had a family of my own. I have been so alone and through some of the worst things. You can't say anything that's going to shock me or surprise me because I've
Right.
been there.
So
And so,
powerful.
yeah.
Mm. It's incredible too when we talk about unconditional love and what that looks like. I love how it came back full circle. But when we're in it, we can't see that. When we're in it, we're in the water, we're swimming in the water, we're not outside of the water, so to speak. So it's like these things they kind of, they tend to get lost. And when we find ourselves getting lost, that's when we come off of our mission isn't clear anymore, right? And we stop growing. But even in those spaces, that's where the growth happens too, if we embrace it and get curious about it. Because oftentimes when something happens, and I think this happens to me quite often, I've gotten a better handle on it, right? But in the past, whenever I feel like I'm coming off that my mission is, you know how in the Christmas movies, when people stop believing in Santa Claus and the world gets dim, and then they start to believe in Santa Claus and it starts to light up again. That's what I want. I want to add love all over the world, right? And that love lies in unconditional. Like you said, I don't have to know somebody to know that they are loved, even in their worst times. When we are in our worst times, we don't need someone to say, oh, well, you have to get your goals together and you're doing YouTube wrong or you're not doing podcasting right or any of that. We don't need the shame. We need somebody to say, just sit with us, hear what's on our hearts because we just need to release it. And that doesn't mean that we're not lovable in that space. When we don't believe in ourselves the most, having people around us that believes in us can go a very long way, but knowing how to do that without shaming is where we come in. I feel like that's where our mission aligns so well, and we have the understanding of what true unconditional love really, really means. And I'm so grateful for your story. I appreciate everything that you shared. And I love your mission. I'm here for it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, and I love the another quote is like, if I can do it, why can't you, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the best part, right? So, if I want to go back to my older stories, right? So, I'm a tech guy. I used to be a tech guy. So, the tech supports at the back, right? So you're not facing with the customers, right? So eventually, when I see a lot of salespeople, I was like super duper excited. Like, yeah, they are like polished shoes, good watches, suited, booted, and they crack $1 million business within a couple of days, months, and everything. So I had a passion like, why can't I be someone like them? So I talked to them, and I have a fear inside because I'm a tech guy. So tech cannot be a sales, right? So eventually, some of the tech people, it's a low grade, like you do sales, no way, all right, something like that. But see, when I talk to them and I ask them like, hey, I think you have a major in like business, finance, because talk about the finance and everything. The guy said, no, I'm a tech guy and I did my MBA or marketing or something, and it's very good. You can transform. So and that pushed me to become a sales and selling. One of the best part of my life is I was the stuff or the products I was selling is from the Amazon, right? So Amazon Cloud Services, right? So and that I was really surprised that, yeah, and in the results, I'm not gonna go for a whole lot of stories. And the results, 4 months I sold 8 customers. 10 months I sold 10 customers. And then in eventually, like you, Cari, I was invited to a lot of people, a lot of the events, Amazon events, Microsoft events, and I told in my call to actions is, if I can do it, a back end tech guy and selling and closing the deal, why can't you? And that's the greatest motivation for a person inside you, that you can do extra miles, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to spark and you need to do the extra miles, and you have to believe in yourself. Believing yourself, putting away the egos, and definitely you have a lot of mileage to run, right? And that's the thing, right? So yeah, absolutely. That's the best part. That's the best
Yeah.
part about you are sharing and everything, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I asked so many questions, right? So why not I give Laziena to a chance, or she will like say like, no way. Yeah.
Oh,
And
no, no, no. I absolutely have a question, and I think this question will kind of tie into wrapping up as far as it goes, because I feel like the story that we shared today is encompasses so much, and it's so relatable and transformational in its own. Um, we are For the people who are listening, right? What is the encouragement that you want to give someone when they feel lost in direction? And I know that I feel like we've already covered it, but like let's speak directly to our audience. And I'll share. For me, I would say, like Nashid was talking about, when it comes to education and the things that you embody. I didn't I became a data analyst by learning how to do it myself. I became an author by just saying, you know what, this is what's in my heart. I need to say this. This needs to be shared. And it just came from years of self-development, right? And years of facing myself. But also on the other side of it is the gratitude and the lessons that I've gotten from it. It gave me so much clarity. I would sit there and I would journal, and I just like start putting together things in my thoughts, and I'm like, oh, so this ties into how I felt about myself this reflection is of a relationship that I had with my father. This is because of a belief that I had with my mother. And not that I feel that way about them. I have clarity, but energetically, I still felt that way. And this is how it was affecting my relationship with my children. And here's how I can do it differently. And that's when the relationship repair language came about, you know? So it took me believing in myself even when other people did believe in me and I didn't believe in myself, it took me saying, no, I want to do this differently. And every time the opportunity came up, to do it differently. And so, my best advice to everyone else is to seek you. Seek you because you are powerful. Every time you feel like you're not good enough, what you're feeling, when you validate that, even if it says, wow, I'm not good enough, naming it out loud, there's something in the back of your mind and your heart that's disconnecting and it's saying, wait, I'm not good enough, and you hear that and like that doesn't feel good here because it's not true. Why isn't it
Right.
true? It's not true because it came from a belief system. And so the more
Absolutely.
you seek you, you may face that, but on the other side of it, going deeper, it will prove to yourself that that spark is there. It is just waiting
Mhm.
for you to ignite it. And you can, once you ignite it, you're gonna have a whole team that's rolling out with you.
Right.
Pun intended. So Cari, I love your voice and your
Absolutely.
passion, especially for this. So I leave that question to, I'm not necessarily a question, but what advice would you give to someone who feels like they've lost their spark or their direction?
Thank you for all of that. It's such a common goal, and I want to play off of what you said of specifically you said if you come upon like you're doing something again, you can do it differently. And I'm going to alter that just a little bit and speak to those who are scared to do anything
Yeah.
Right.
and say, do it scared.
Yeah.
It's going to be scary. You, I was the kind of person that I had to see the end from the beginning before I would
Mhm.
take a step. So I knew what to do. And so I didn't have that fear. And that keeps you right at the beginning because you're afraid to make a mistake. Do it scared, do
Yeah.
it tired,
Right.
do it terrified, do it anxious. Just step into whatever you want to do because as soon as you step into it, whether it's perfect, whether it's not perfect, does not matter. What
Mm-hmm.
matters is taking one step forward. And as soon
Right.
as you do that, you're like, oh, I didn't die. I didn't get hurt. I'm okay. Everything's still the same. Maybe I can take another step. Yeah, do it scared. Your fear is going to decrease. Your trepidation is going to decrease. Your confidence in yourself and your belief in yourself, like Laziena stated, is going to increase. But we need to be in action to see any difference. And if we
Yeah.
don't take action, we stay right where we are mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Do it scared. That's my motto. I whatever it is, just do it.
Yep.
And I want to say one thing really quickly. I've got this little sticky note that is on the bottom of my monitor at work that it just keeps going through my head as we've been speaking today. And it says, when my why is greater than my excuse, that's when things happen. So whatever excuse is saying, I don't want to step into this. I don't want to start writing a book. I don't want to make that phone call. I don't want to think a different thought. Do it scared because that's the only time it's going to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Beautifully
and
Thank you
said.
both.
beautiful. Yeah,
Thank
and
you
absolutely.
both.
And writing down, right? So I thought I learned from someone I forgot, like you need to write it down, right? There are a lot of things if you can write it down and your brain can capture that, and it can really poke you around like, hey, you need to do it this and you do that. And one of the best analysis I like, it's very easy, like your strength, your weakness, SWOT analysis, something like that. So strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats, right? So eventually I gave to my daughters as well, and they were like, what the hell that is doing? And I said, like, no, you need to understand your strength. You need to understand your weakness. And you have five strength, you have five weakness, and now write something how you need to overcome to that. So the elder one says like, I don't want to, I love to speak, but I'm very shy on it. write it down. So she wrote 5 steps, and now she's like, I was thinking, and yeah, I did write, putting them in a very like strength, weakness, and everything, and it really eventually helped them a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the part. And also, I was catching up with you with the listening part. If Dave that period of time didn't have the patience to listen to you, probably it's going to be something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the listening is very important. So being a coach, right? Being a good coach,
Yeah.
like we always try to talk. That's a matter, right? So we always try to talk. We don't want to listen, and we don't keep up up pace or space when you talk, when we talk, and everything. So that's the part I think the best part. I was taking our notes, right? The listening is very important. Listening was that period of time important. So a lot of the people you met, probably they didn't listen you well. They didn't catch what you do. So same repeated time. Eventually you lost money coaching them and taking coaching from them, and nothing really worked. So listening is very important, and eventually you can uh, drop down to them and by pieces and actionable items like from I want to go there from that, and writing down the words like you do from the sticky notes and others is very important, and that's how we can grow together, and definitely that answers can really really answer for different people who is listening to us and maybe listening to all our podcasts, and yeah, that's the one, that's the
Yeah.
one I was sharing, right?
Thank you so
Love that.
much. I really appreciate our conversation today. And I'm excited to even re-listen to this because I feel like there was a lot of I appreciate your vulnerability, Cari. I know that you're not I know that you understand the power of vulnerability, and I encourage everyone else too who's listening that vulnerability is what connects us, because when we feel alone and someone comes and offers us that lamp, of light, that's the opportunity for us to meet in each other's hearts, because at the end of the day, all of us know what it feels like to feel sad, or it feels like to be not be heard or be disrespected. Those are all real feelings and real emotions. Never be afraid to go to someone and say, I'm struggling with something and I need help, because we just never know where that help is going to come from. And we can't depend on people, but as life in general, especially when it comes to stepping into our mission, we have strengths in one area and we have weaknesses in another, and that weakness we can transform into our strengths, but we could also rely on other people to help us get through it. There's a lot of things about the tech world that I'm kind of like, I have 800 fingers. But when it comes to emotional and relational intelligence, I can speak about that for hours at a time, right? And
Absolutely.
break it down. So we do need partners. We do need to have our own team. And I like to call it our spiritual team, right? But also having a team that understand that the mission also means that we exchange value within each other. We are the currency. And that is how our energetic currency is what makes the world better. So I thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cari, for being our guest. And
Thank you
I
both.
cannot wait to have more conversation. And Nashid, as always, it's a pleasure to have these conversations with you.
Yeah, same errors, right? So, yeah, so Carrie, like, it's not going to be the question. It's something like how people will reach you, right? Like,
That's
for
right.
me, it's much better to reach in my email, like which is nashidali@gmail.com. I am a tech entrepreneur and purposely driven by a life coach, and I do speak in different events. And recently, I signed up with the Stanford Seeds for mentors, and I'm really loving it. So that's my area: LinkedIn and Instagram for Nashid Ali, and they will find out if anyone wants to reach. And similar like Laziena, how they can reach you, and then I will come to Cari like how the people will reach you and understand these healing paths, your journey, and they don't want to talk about So listen, up to you, and then we can ask, right?
Yeah. For me, if I love to live in the world that helps people return to love after conflict. And you can reach me at laziena.com. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, there is a link on there to sign up. You'll get to talk to me. And my relationship repair language quiz is also on the website laziena.com. And all my social media is Laziena Hodge. And that's as easy as it is to find me. My goal is to be reachable. So, Cari, go for it.
Great.
Sing your
Perfect.
praises.
Yeah.
So, my business name is called Resilience Mind and Body Coaching. I'm also a massage therapist. I've been a massage therapist for 23 years. I have been doing energy work, and then I tie all of that into my coaching as well. So it's a full holistic healing practice. And so you can find me on almost every platform, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Insta, by either my first and last name or my business, again, Resilience Mind and Body Coaching. You can connect with me, my apologies, at Resilience Mind and Body Coaching at Outlook or resilience-mindandbodycoaching.com. So
Yay. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, now everybody knows how to contact us. Get in touch with us. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.